Welcome. It's the FIH Hockey Pro League show, and I'm joined today by a new guest, a new face on the show, Boon of the Belgian Red Panthers. Hi, Jill. How are you today?
Great. I'm doing great.
Fantastic. So good to see you. People who, everybody will know you and your name and your history within the game, but 302 caps for Belgium, a long career, and still, you still play at top level domestic club hockey as well. And I think for this weekend, you've watched an awful lot of hockey, which is great. And someone else who's watched an awful lot of hockey is our FIH Director of Sport and Development, Jon Wyatt. Hi, Jon. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. Very good, thank you.
Yeah, great to see you. And again, Jon's pedigree within hockey, former GB and England striker, again, a long career. So another voice of wisdom on the show. So it's really good to talk to you both. I'm going to throw Jill in first at the deep end. The big game, they're all big games, but the one that I think everybody was licking their lips in anticipation about were the two meetups between Argentina and the Netherlands. We've got Argentina unbeaten in the Pro League yet this year, the Netherlands unbeaten forever. What was your sort of initial thoughts on those two games when you look back? What do you reflect on the two performances?
Well, I think like everyone, we were expecting like a tight game. I think both of the teams are set their mind already on the World Cup coming up and to pretend for the gold medal. I think I've been really impressed by the physical ability of Argentina. They're pressing all game long, and I think it was a tough opponent for Holland, and to be able to be in the game against Holland, I think it's a great performance a couple of weeks before the World Cup.
Absolutely, Jon. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, very similar actually, and I agree. I think they're the two hot favourites, aren't they, for the World Cup in next month? So yeah, great to see both very tight games. Right going down to the wire, both teams having chances to win it towards the end, and from a selfish point of view, it's exciting and it keeps the league going. Argentina had the opportunity to potentially win the league, but it now goes to at least another couple of weekends. There are three teams in the Women's League who could still win, and so from a fan's perspective, we want to keep that excitement going right to the end. So it was great to see.
Yeah, a great game. And one of the things that's been quite noticeable about the Dutch team in the last couple of years has been the way that they've been able to dictate the pace throughout the game. They didn't have this luxury this time, did they? But Jill, sort of watching that performance, as we said, it was 1-1 in both games. It went to shootout in both games. Aside from mastering the shootout, what do Argentina need to do to be the team that can beat the Netherlands, do you think? What do they need to improve in their game based on what you've seen?
I think that they missed a couple of opportunities in the end and lost maybe their pace. You can see like in the last seconds of the second game where they get a corner against on a gesture, they just like pure emotions. And I think they have really a chance to beat Holland probably in the World Cup and winning the FIH Pro League. But I think it's going to be in between the ears. Physically, they're, I think, even maybe above Holland for the first time. I've seen a team like putting so much pressure on the Dutch defense and midfield, and they have that passion that need to serve them well to win it and keep that passion alive, but that it doesn't work against them. I think and that's going to be, the key in the coming weeks for them.
Yeah, we almost saw it overspill yesterday a little bit towards the end, didn't we? But it was so exciting, that sort of that feistiness. Jon, how close do you think we're seeing a lot of the teams that are still tweaking and moving their squads around a little bit? How close do you think Jamie Mulders is to having his team ready for the World Cup now?
It's the $1 million question, isn't it? Because the gap has definitely closed, hasn't it? And I think that's both because Argentina have really stepped up and they're really playing at the absolute top of their game. And I think you'd say that the Dutch team are maybe slightly off where they have been over the last couple of years. So that increase of Argentina and maybe slight drop off of the Dutch team, and now maybe that the gap is almost non-existent, as we saw this weekend. So, look, I think there's probably still a few. By this stage, you're probably down to having 12, 14 of your squad pretty much sorted, and but you're still tinkering with those last few, and it will come down to form. It will come down to what the girls are showing in training. Maybe some of the tactics that the coaching teams choose to use. So Yeah, those sort of 15, 16, 17, 18 places are always really tight. And they'll be wanting to keep them competitive, I would have thought, right to the very end.
Yeah. Jill, as a newbie on the show, I'm going to give you a treat today. You're allowed to choose 3 players from the 2 teams you saw at the weekend, Netherlands and Argentina. Which 3 players would you choose to put on your team sheet?
That's luxury. From Argentina, I would pick Cedres.
Yeah.
I have been lucky not so lucky, but to play against her because she plays in Belgium, and I think the way she pops now in the national team, her technical ability, her physical ability, and her goal on shooter were just like pure class. And she's not been playing a lot the last years, but I think now she should be part of the team. Well, on
your team.
I'm a huge fan of Liede Welten. I think, she has a pace and a power and a winning mentality that I admire, and she's a great person. So also, and I played with Laura Nuning, a younger player in Oranje Rood, and I think she's just world class now. She's playing the minutes she had to play, which she wasn't always giving the chance with under Allison, and now she's playing in the midfield, and I think she's dominating, and she has pace, she has technical power, and also she used to score a lot. So yeah, I think she's one of the most complete player I've played with. So yeah, I would pick those 3: Cedres from Argentina, Liede Welten, and then Laura Nuning.
Brilliant.
Probably
John, I'll give you
a couple of other ones, but
you're not allowed anymore. I'm going to give John a couple. John, you can have 2, 1 from each team.
No, I'm going to have to plead the Fifth Amendment. I can't possibly be seen in any way to bias any individual or team. Okay. 2 world-class teams, and you could pick any one of those players on the pitch.
Yeah, I'm going to put Ghazalani into my team because I'd like to see her score some goals, and probably Xander Voort because I think she's maturing so much as a player and as a leader as well. Moving on, John, just if we could talk about England men and South Africa. It was one of those situations. I think we talk about South Africa in this respect every single time. They show so much potential, don't they? And quite often it's towards the end of the game when they really start to show their flair. And how on earth can they get to be the team that starts the same way that they finish each time?
I think, it's been fantastic to see both South Africa and France coming in at the last minute because of the unfortunate dropout of Australia and New Zealand and being competitive, and they would be the first to say that at the start of the Pro League season, they were way off the pace. And you look at those results, down in South Africa, and there were some big score lines, and they were definitely well to pace. Now we're talking about how can they start like they finish, because they finish really competitively and they're scoring goals. So they've made huge strides, and I think they've really benefited from being part of the Pro League. And it's been a really, really positive aspect of this season for me, for both of those teams. What are the small things? Maybe they start the matches with a bit too much respect for the opposition, possibly. But they've clearly got the athleticism, they've got the skill, and then it's just a matter of taking their chances and taking them early in the game rather than, as you say, taking them towards the end. But no, it's been great to have them involved this season for sure.
And it's lovely to have a showcase for a player like, I don't know, Matt Guise-Brown or somebody like that, to show just how world-class they are on things like drag flick, on penalty corners and things. Lovely to see them on the stage. What about England? Stick with you, John, for a minute. As a team, they're looking good. But I just feel there's something else they could perhaps do to go from being good to being amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, they've had a really a sort of steadily improving campaign. And they're still in with a shout. We were talking this morning internally at FIH and starting to plan for the end of the season, and looking at all the different permutations and the scenarios and who might win and where might they win and this sort of thing. And there's still, as I mentioned before, there's still 3 teams in the women's league, but there's 6 teams in the men's league who can still win it. And England are one of those, and they wouldn't be the favourites for sure, but they're in with a shout. So they're going to be up there. They're going to finish the season well, and then it's about them having a good lead into their World Cup in January next year. Yeah. But I think they've started to find corner goals, which is always important. And they're looking good. And they're looking really strong.
Yeah, and it starts from the back, doesn't it? I think Oliver Payne is very good in goal. You've got a nice settled defence, and as you say, they're scoring goals at the other end. One team that will definitely be, among the favourites for the title is your own men's team there, Jill. You watched Belgium, first of all, last week when they played Spain, and this week against France. and they've had a bit of a break from the Pro League. So how do you think they've come back, and what's the sort of the mood in Belgium, if you like, about the men's team?
I'm impressed every time I see them play, because when they play well, I think they're unbeatable. And when they play against Spain the second game and they play well, they were missing 8 players, like 8 solid players. And by missing 8, they still win, and easily win. And 3 players make their debut the first game, and it's like they've been in the team for forever. So I think they're really, really impressive. In every line, in every aspect of the game, they're dominant. And then when you have players performing, and then you have amazing goals also coming up, and it's awesome for the crowd. And I think they're every time I'm impressed. Every time everyone is like, Belgium now is not really doing that great. The day after, they show that it's just like above the teams for the moment, like the Dutch women were for like a long time.
Yeah, I mean, Tom played very, very well against Spain. I mean, some of those goals are incredible. What's he like when he comes home from a game like that? Is he, really, really buzzing and, proud of himself?
Tom being proud of himself is a long way to go, but I think he enjoys it. And when you see him like that, it's just like a little kid. When I see him on the field against Spain, or even yesterday against France, and which was a more difficult game, but he's just like the little kid that he used to be when he was 10 and scoring goals on the practice field. And that's what I like about this team too, is that you can see a bunch of friends that they can play quite good hockey also. And that's why you see moments of joy and spectacle. And that's why we love hockey that much, is to see actions and goal scoring like that. It's just moments of pure joy. And that's, I think it's happy. He played more minutes also. That's what makes him really happy also. And that's when the moment where you have Tom on the field more often is where you can get all of his creativity out of him.
We were talking last week, and it's why I'm so pleased that we've got you, who is from Belgium, on the show this week, so I can ask the same question again. This culture that this team has got, and I think the women are getting it as well, is that why people have got such longevity within that team? Is that why John Doman is still there, so many caps later? Because actually you don't get fed up with that. You don't lose the motivation if it takes you back to your childhood and that enjoyment. That must be a great place to be.
Yeah, and I think, well, John or Felix, they had struggles also. And when you touch gold for the first time, you just want to have it every single time. And I think they're having a lot of fun, and that's why the crowd is liking them so much. It just looks like they have so much fun, and that's why they keep on playing. I talked, like, Belgium hockey is a small world, and a couple of friends on that team, and they have had a couple of hard moments to motivate themselves after winning gold a couple of times, but it's just so quickly that they adapt again, because they just want to play and win every single match they have. And and when it's so much fun, I think it's really hard to let it go.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing is, being an elite athlete is very, very tough. But if you're in an environment that you enjoy, and I mean, Shane McLeod has come back as well, so he must have enjoyed it enough to come back. That's all pretty cool. What are your thoughts on it, John? Do you pick that up from the sideline when you're watching Belgium?
Oh, for sure. And, as someone who retired a long time ago now, once you retire, that's it, right? You're retired for a long time. And actually the elite athlete period in your life is a relatively short one. So if it's going well and you're enjoying it, and as Jill said, they're clearly having an absolute brilliant time and loving their hockey, why wouldn't you continue? Until the point that your body starts breaking down and you can't keep going at the same level, because we can't go forever, unfortunately. But I always say to people who are thinking about it, play for as long as you can, because once you stop, that's kind of it, and then we get huge amounts of enjoyment from watching the sport, but it's not the same as playing it yourself. So if you have the chance to carry on for as long as you can. And they are clearly a fantastic team who are now bringing in some of the next generation as well, which is great to see, because what you don't want is to have a large portion of any team stopping at the same time and suddenly you have a real big rebuild. You look at the really successful teams over the years, whether it's the All Blacks rugby team or the Man United football team of the 90s and 2000s, they were continually bringing in. So it was just a drip feed of 2 or 3 younger players all the time. and then as people retired, there was just this kind of continue, and that's the sense you get. You know, as Jill said, there was talk of, you know, after Tokyo, well, is that going to be it? But no, quite the opposite. They clearly love it and want more, and they're showing that they can win more as well. So yeah, they're certainly going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking down the team list today, and I mean, somebody like Artur de Sluva, for example, he's still young and he's got a whole heap of caps, hasn't he? So you've got a team that spreads from an 18-year-old to a however old John. You know, there's a lot of years in that. And a wide expanse of players, but it's a team that can keep going and going. What about the women, Jill? They played Spain last weekend, and I think there was a not such great performance, then a very good performance. But where are they on the whole spectrum, do you think, in terms of being ready for the World Cup and then moving forwards from there?
Yeah, I think they're working really hard. A lot of young talents are popping up, and when you obviously Ambre Ballonguer now has been in the radar, in the spotlight for a couple of years, but you have Charlotte Anglebert is coming up, and for me, I'm playing with her in my club, and she's one of the best players I've played with. Holland, abroad, everything together. I think she's one of the big world-class talent that is coming. And you still have my old friends, like I call them. So they have a complete team. They're working hard, and the game against Spain also, the championship had just ended. Yeah. So playing in Belgium or Holland, it's quite a busy year. You have the domestic league, you have all the trainings, you have FIH Pro League coming up. So you have like a quite busy year. So they're not at their top level yet, but I think they have a chance to get something big from the World Cup. But again, it's really hard to see now, because you have obviously Holland and Argentina, but then you have Germany, England is coming up. And then you have like unknown countries like India, China, that we don't see a lot. And Australia and New Zealand that are rebuilding. So there are like 7 or 8 teams that want to show the world again where they were and where they want to be in the future. And I think Belgium has a big opportunity to show that they're on the right track, not only in this Pro League, but on the World Cup, and then for sure to qualify for Paris 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching Belgium. Actually, I think they play a really, really lovely and compelling style of hockey, which is great. And it was interesting watching them play Spain, because they were two quite different styles. Jon, you've seen Spain in the last few weeks. What are your thoughts on where Spain are right now? Because sometimes they're mesmerisingly brilliant, and sometimes they seem to just detract a little bit.
Yeah, I think Adrian's, he's been building that squad for a number of years now, and clearly hosting a World Cup is what they're absolutely peaking for. Yeah. I think possibly they haven't quite had the results that they would have been hoping for in the build-up. But you go to England and you're beating England, who are, as Jill said, are looking strong at the moment, and they're an improving team as well. So to have beaten them yesterday was a really, really good result for them. So. Yeah, look, I think any team who's hosting a World Cup with the home crowd is going to be difficult to beat, and I'm sure they're targeting a top 4 finish in the World Cup. So, a bit of a work in progress, but they need to sort out their consistency, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, they're watching them moving forwards through midfield. You think, wow, and then they just sometimes don't score when they should, and I think that's one of the biggest things. Jill, what are your thoughts on Spain? Because again, Spain and Belgium women are very, very much sort of level pegging in the rankings and in competitions, aren't they? What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I think in the last years they've been our biggest opponents in quarterfinals, in semifinals, and stuff like that. So we lost in the last World Cup against them. They have a lot of experience. I think they have great players. They're training really hard. I think they're training as hard as Belgium. So it's going to be really interesting to see what both teams can bring in the World Cup. But for me, you still have class player like Gigi Oliva that is, still at the top of her game, and they're really physical. And I think they have a bit more experience in big moments. So I think that's where they're really gonna make it. It's in the stressful moments, because they've been there and they've been playing well in those moments. And so I think that's maybe the little difference between Spain and Belgium, but I hope it changed sides in the next moment. So they had their time, and now it's maybe to Belgium to have that difficult moment where they just pass through and then can continue their journey in the tournament. So, but yeah, it's a really, what I admire the most is how much they're working day in, day out on their physical abilities, on leaving everything behind to train in their center and to travel the world. Like people sometimes forget about that aspect on and even more on women's hockey, where they leave a lot behind to be able to fulfill the dream. And so I think that Spain is that kind of a team. They're working really hard, and they would deserve to play a good tournament also, but not as good as Belgium, I hope.
I mean, it's a great point you make, because people, you know, we spoke about Rocio Sanchez earlier. You know, she's got a little child at home. Belen Suchi has got children at home, and yet these people, for their sport, are traveling. And as Jon says, you know, your sporting career is short compared to your lifespan, but also that time with your kids is quite short as well, and before they grow up. So it's, you know, we do have to remember these players are making huge sacrifices for the sport they love and to entertain us as well. Final team just to talk about briefly, we have touched on them, but England women, they surprisingly for them, I think, lost to China last week. I don't think it was a surprise to everybody watching the way that China had made very, very swift progress, but they came bouncing back against Spain, as we said. One of the things that you've mentioned a couple of times, Jill, has been the fitness of some of the women's teams, and I think England as well. England, Spain, India, they're all teams where the fitness levels are just rising and rising, and that can only stand them in good stead. What you know, England, where do they sit in the Spain, Belgium, England sort of mix there, do you think?
I think England, their physical strength has always been a strength. They're really powerful, and they're still showing it today. I watch the highlights of the game, and they go and go. And then also for me, you have now world-class players also that are surprising, they're powerful, that scoring awesome goals. And I think they have a quite mixture. That's what I said, like to say, like, I think Belgium has a big opportunity to maybe go for the medals, but England, Germany are always going to be there too, and they have been there for the last decades, maybe more. So it's going to be a tough opponent, and it's going to be, again, really exciting, because it's going to be on details. Which penalty corner variation is going to get in, which save is going to be made, which mistakes, or, you know, so it's going to be really, really close, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely change the subject now. We've got a big event taking place in Lausanne next week, Jon. We've got the Hockey Fives, first FIH International Hockey Fives tournament. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it and what that's going to, well, what's it like in Lausanne at the moment as you're getting ready for it?
Well, currently it's pretty warm, and the stadium is being built today, started to build today. The pitch goes down tomorrow. So this is an entirely temporary facility, right in the heart of Lausanne, on the banks of Lake Geneva, with the mountains behind. It's going to be beautiful, and you know, we're hoping that the crowds enjoy it, the athletes enjoy it, and we get some amazing imagery and films that we can then show the world that this is what we hope and want from Hockey Fives. You know, Hockey Fives has been around for a while now. It's being played in, well, more than 70 countries around the world. From a development point of view, it's fantastic, because clearly you only need 10 players rather than 20. And you know, we all grew up playing small-sided games, and it's just formalizing that. Having the rebound boards basically makes it a load of fun, and you see the kids playing it at the local club here. We've had a set of boards out for the kids in their training, and they just love it, because it's just non-stop hockey, and the ball never goes out, and they don't have to go running off to get the ball, you know. So we've got teams coming in from around the world. We've got some Asian teams. We've got Uruguay coming up. With South Africa are coming. So there's a really interesting mix. You know, most of the top European nations are busy with the end of their domestic league or finishing off pro league. So it's a chance for some other nations to get involved. And there's a bunch of new things we're trying. You know, we're going to have a pitch that we want to play like a watered pitch, but it won't be watered, it will be dry. So it's new technology to see how that works. And this is obviously part of the drive towards a more sustainable future for our sport. So there's going to be a few things that are going to be trialed. For some of the teams, it'll be the first time that they'll have played Hockey Fives in this particular dimension with these boards, and it'll take them a little time to get used to. But you know, the event is Saturday and Sunday. The matches are 10 minutes each way, so it's, you know, quick fire. Every 30 minutes another match comes on, and you know, we want people to be passing by who've never seen hockey before, because it's in the middle of a city, it's not in a hockey club, and go, oh, what's that? Come over. The DJ will be playing some music. There'll be goals flying in left, right, and centre, and they'll go, wow, this is an amazing sport. It's really interesting trialing it here in Switzerland, because you mentioned hockey to people in Switzerland and they assume you mean ice hockey.
Yeah.
So you always have to explain that no, this is field hockey. So there'll be lots of people who won't have a clue what's going on, and we hope to entertain them, and we hope to show them that this is our sport. So yeah, it's another format. It's tried and tested at a development level and at a youth level, but not really at a senior international level yet. So this is the first one of these events we'll be doing. We'll do a few more next year, and then we're building towards the first World Cup in hockey fives. And look, we hope that there's some nations who are maybe not traditional hockey nations who do really well and choose to specialise in fives, and it'd be a fantastic way of spreading hockey's footprint a bit more broadly. And you look at how Rugby Sevens has improved the growth of rugby, in non-traditional rugby nations, or basketball 3-on-3, which is just taken off around the world. So that's the idea. Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. I personally hope it stays dry, because a dry pitch when it rains becomes a wet pitch. And that's part of the technology, is to test a dry pitch. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but we're looking forward to it.
I've got to say, I mean, I would love to play hockey fives. I think it's just going to be so much fun, because you get more touches of the ball. Like you say, it's non-stop, it's off the boards and everything. What would you, I mean, Jill, you'd love a go, yeah?
Yeah, I would. Well, it's like a practice to play 5v5. It's my favorite drill. Yeah. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I'm still a huge fan of normal hockey, like I would say, but the idea of promoting hockey in different ways around the world, and promoting hockey in general to non-hockey players, I think it's really important for a sport to make it more accessible for countries around the world. It's something that is really important for me too, that everyone can enjoy and love the game like we love it.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Fowler, who would have joined us today, but will now join us probably next week, was so enthusiastic, because she said, in South Africa, if you can put a small pitch down or use a small space and play five-a-side, people are going to come and they're going to play. And we've already seen, if you can unleash hockey in South Africa, wow, they play a great game.
She's the coach for the South African team that are coming up
right.
for the weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. I'll see her. I think they arrive on Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, fantastic. We've still got more Pro League matches going on. So next week on 2nd of June, we've got Netherlands versus Argentina men. 4th of June, we've got England versus Netherlands women, Spain versus South Africa men, Spain versus China women. It goes on and on. It's the gift that keeps giving. It's the Pro League. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today and for chatting all things Pro League. Jill, I hope you'll join us again.
Whenever you want.
And we'll supply you with the background. Jon, thank you very much as well. And thanks to everybody for tuning in.
Thank you.
Check it out.